Hey, this is Christopher McCore, and welcome to the Shift Show. And welcome to the Shift Show is where we bring spirit to bear on trending issues. And the the topic for today is the components of fulfillment. And I will kind of come at the towards the end of what I'm presenting today. I will get to the part of how this applies to shifting and having humanity shift. Um, so the way this topic started, it was just last night. Um, I was having dinner with my wife and our drummer. My wife and I are in a band. We're called Radiant Deep, and excuse me, our drummer has nicknamed my wife Sarah Radiant, and of course I'm Christopher, so I'm Christopher Deep. And so my wife has been working on a song called Fat and Sugar. And so being Christopher Deep, uh, I wanted to explore the symbolism of fat and sugar. And so when I thought about it, it's like fat is kind of like comfort, and sugar is like love, um, and I asked my wife. I said, what is that when you have comfort and you have love? Is that enjoyment? Is that are those all the components of enjoyment? And she said, no. There also needs to be like mental stimulation, or and I you know I suggested meaning. Is meaning important? She said yes, meaning. So the things that the components of enjoyment are comfort and love and meaning. Um, and but then I started thinking about it. Actually, what I want to do now is I want to do a screen share and yeah, show you this chart. So so we have the fat and the sugar, the comfort and the love, and you know, and the protein or meaning, you know, um, adding up to enjoyment. But I was thinking about, well, is life is life is there more to life than just enjoyment? And I thought, oh yeah, for sure. For me, there is, and and I realized that growth is very important to me. I consider myself a wholeness geek, and as a wholeness geek, I am extremely motivated to be all of who I am, and that requires growth. That requires going into parts of myself that are not necessarily, comfortable or loving. Um, there is, that there is always the element of meaning. That this is a part of myself that's a shadow, and I need to reclaim it. I need to own it, and and so I thought that the growth part of it was like vegetables. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not bad mouthing vegetables. Vegetables are great. I'm just suggesting that vegetables don't always taste as good as, and this entirely depends on the person, but they might, to some people, they might not taste as good as fat or sugar or protein. Um, so there's the growth element. But then I kept I kept thinking about it. Well, okay, so is that all there is to life? Is to feel, um, to have comfort and love and meaning and growth. And I thought, well, no, there's actually another component for me. The other component that is important is productivity. I need to feel productive in order to feel some sense of fulfillment. I need to feel like I'm creating things that are meaningful and that are an expression of my growth. Um, and so I thought, oh well, you know, in when I'm eating, in a meal, there's there's a certain like piece of the pie of 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 me feeling satisfied, and that piece is occupied by carbs, by carbohydrates, and so I'm my both my wife and I are blood type O's, and if you eat according to a blood type diet, the blood type O diet, um, grains, which are usually the way that we get carbohydrates, are an avoid food, not healthy because blood type O's are, they're the hunter and gatherers, and the farming wasn't even a thing back then, you know. So, but there are in the blood type O diet there are other ways to get carb-like foods, and two of them are sweet potatoes and squash. So those are ways that we particular me fill out our diet. Get the carb part of that satisfaction. Um, so I'm just suggesting there's probably a lot of people who are just fine with grains, but if you're not, this is the way you can get carbs. Okay, so so we have comfort and we have love and we have meaning and we have growth and we have productivity. And I thought, is that everything? To feeling fulfilled. And I thought, no, there's actually something that's still missing. And what that is impact. That it's like there are I'm a person. I say this about myself. I'm a person who can run on inspiration, and I can do things just for the inherent value of doing things, and whether they add up to something in the world is not it's not an it's not on the top of it's not top of priority, and um, it may not, and it's not even that high on the list. But there are times when my gas tank gets empty, gets close to empty, or the bank account runs down, where it's really helpful to get some feedback. Some like, hey, that helped me. You're keep up the good work. You're valuable, and what you're doing is keep what you're doing makes a difference in the world. And so that's that's the impact part of it. And I thought, oh, so what's in terms of meat food, what is that? And I thought, oh, well, spices, like you can have like a really good dish, that has some fat, has some sweetness to it, has protein, it has vegetables, it's good for you, it tastes good, it's enjoyable, um, it actually fills you up, in a good kind of way. But when you put in certain spices, it can completely boost that dish, and it makes it much more deliverable, to the meal eater, you know to to the rest of the world, essentially to um, to your audience, to the consumer. Um, so there's the whole, here the we've got enjoyment and we've got growth and we've got productivity and we have impact, and the things that contribute, the components of that are comfort and love and meaning and growth and productivity, uh, and impact, and the food components that symbolize um, those things, or the, the foods that these are a symbol, the foods that these things are the symbols. How do I say this? The foods that correspond to these symbols are fat, sugar, protein, vegetables, carbs, and spices. So I'm going to stop my share now, and yeah. So and of course the way this applies to shifting, and both in terms of oneself and especially in terms of shifting humanity, is that that when we're fulfilled in what we're doing and we actually have an impact on the world, then that contributes to our. It's like we have to transform ourselves in order to transform the world, and when those components are there, then that can happen. So thanks for listening. This is Christopher McClure from Welcome to the Shift Show and the components of fulfillment.